we're going to change a little bit topic. I mean, we stay within sustainability, of course, within environment, but we're going to switch to nature. And I think I'm the only one talking about biodiversity and nature today, because I checked the, well, maybe not, I don't know. Okay, so I'm Virginia Castellucci, I'm the head of sustainability of XNatura. We are also known in Italy as 3B. We actually started as 3B. This was 10 years ago, and then when we launched our platform that is called XNatura, we thought to rebrand a little bit because people didn't understand what we actually were doing. So what we do. So this is the agenda for today. I'm going to go through who we are and our platform, the LEAP approach we use, and all the things you can actually do with our platform, and some case studies from different sectors. Before I start, how many of you is already working on biodiversity/nature within its company? Higher, please. Okay. Yeah, great. Did you do like a nature strategy already? No, it's more random things, or kind of. Okay. For all of the others, who is not already on its nature journey, who think is gonna do it soon? I mean, start soon? Nobody. Good. Who thinks nature is material for the company, for the industry you're in? Material? Some, okay. Non-material? All the others? Okay. Okay. So we are a naturtech company. We basically monitor biodiversity through technology. We mix up different technologies. We are also one of the first company that was helped with a fund by the European Union to develop the first biodiversity credit. And we are actually on the journey to do that. We released an important standard last September 2025. Let's say that we assess, monitor, regenerate, and disseminate about nature. We are 60 people. Most of us are in the R&D team. That for us, it's basically software developers mixed up with agronomists, entomologists, and ecologists. We have a lot of devices already spread around the world that are monitoring biodiversity, and we are mapping more than 1 million hectares already. We have a lot of customers, and we are already mapping projects in 25 countries. It's mostly Europe and South America. So which are the, let's say, technology we involved? It's mainly remote sensing. We get a lot of KPI. We can get a lot of KPI through remote sensing, but it's also sensor on the ground that are based on bioacoustic, on image recognition, on-field survey, of course, still with image recognition and a little bit of lab analysis. It depends really on the project. Who we work for, it's mainly companies, like private companies that are in their journey of, nature strategy, but also municipalities, some public administration, and natural parks, like national parks, but also regional parks that have to, of course, monitor biodiversity. So today I'm going to focus mostly on the platform, so on the monitoring system. Of course, we also do the regeneration, but I think this is the most interesting thing. Let's say that the platform, it's based on the LEAP approach, so TNFD LEAP approach, and that we started from biodiversity and nature, but now we have KPIs also on other, environmental data. It's just environment, it's not social, of course, but yeah, climate, hydrogeological risk, and so on. So those are the industry we work with and who I think, nature it's material for those. So of course the agribusiness, so everything is related to food or, with growing resources from the ground. So also pharma sometimes, nutraceutical. Of course, you can imagine the impact they have on biodiversity, so monocultures. So I think also it's the sector that started before dealing with biodiversity, and that's really on its journey to do stuff. Most of the projects are related to, let's say, regenerative agriculture. But of course, they also do a lot of risk and prioritization of the supply chain. So especially for European companies that deals with very critical, let's say, crop like coffee and cocoa. Now they really need to understand what's going on with climate change, and if they need to move out in some places, start investing in some others. It's a transition period, let's say. Then we work a lot in the energy and infrastructure sector. You can imagine the impact they have. It's mainly like ecosystem fragmentation. They have a lot of ecological corridors they need to monitor. This is by law, of course, especially for the infrastructure. And then we work a lot in the industry and production side, especially for, let's say, the manufacturing companies that have a lot of sites and they need to understand their risks and how to prioritize all the assets they have, and where they should start their, their regeneration and to deal with, for example, hydrogeological risk. And then, of course, it's urban natural park. You can imagine that. That's mainly related to, it's mostly awareness project. Well, not for natural parks. They need to monitor because they have to. So this is what the platform does. So it's mainly monitoring and data digitalization. It's interesting because we were monitoring nature also in the past, but with the traditional method, it was really, really hard to monitor, huge assets and to get a lot of data because it costed a lot. I mean, you needed people to go around and monitor, like ecologists to go around and look for species. Biodiversity, it's collapsing. So it's good that we have technology to monitor now because we can get a lot of more data and actually see if we are improving on some projects. The platform also runs risk and dependencies prioritization. So if you have a lot of assets, benchmarking and target verification, it can develop like a biodiversity action plan or a nature strategy for a company. Scenario analysis is really important when you're doing like regeneration projects to see before what will happen after the regeneration. Of course, transparent communication and, report. You can download the report. It's easy, it's automatic, and you can add it on your sustainability report. Yeah, it's based on the LEAP approach. How many of you are familiar with TNFD, LEAP approach? Okay. Okay, so basically the first thing to do is locate. Okay. We locate with remote sensing. The good thing about remote sensing is that we don't need a lot of data input to get some data as the output. So that's why it's pretty simple sometimes to monitor also the supply chain, because you don't need a lot of input. Of course, the more data you have as an input, the more precise and detailed you get as an output. But you can still start from very few data. Of course, the remote sensing is based on, let's say, satellite images. We work with the European Space Agency for that, but of course the images are available for all around the world. So European Space Agency doesn't only take pictures of us, but also of the entire world. And we mix that up with public data sets. Why public? Because so you can rely on transparency in that sense. So as I said before, you can actually get a lot of information of your supply chain, also of your site, because you can also start from a single site, even with very few information, and you can start from there, your monitoring path. The second point of the LEAP approach, it's evaluate. We mix up also different data. It's anchor, but also all the other technology I mentioned before. So sensors, for example, on-field survey and lab analysis. Of course, we don't always use all these technologies. It really depends on the project. So if you're doing like a risk assessment with 200 assets, we're not gonna use the sensor, of course. But if you're doing like a regeneration project and you want to focus really on that, it's better to put sensors so you can actually track and you can mix up, satellite data with, on-field data. This is one of the sensors we have. It's called Spectrum. It's a sensor that can that gives data about pollinators, like wild pollinators. That makes noise, of course, because it's bioacoustic. So we're not getting information about butterflies, of course. They don't make sound, but everything that makes a sound, yes. So it gives the number of individuals we monitor, but also the type of individual. So at the end, you have these quantification of the clusters of the pollinator. And this is like a bioindicator for biodiversity. They are very sensible. Like wild bees, they are very sensible to ecosystem changes. So they are one of the first species that disappear or that has problems at the end. So it's very important to track them. It's nice to track them and have data about them if you're doing like a regeneration project. It's yellow because it attracts the pollinators, and that specific yellow was like an entire project from the University of Turin. So to get the exact, it's incredible. They got the exact number of the yellow they wanted, to attract them. Then something similar happens to the birds. So it's based on bioacoustic. The difference here is that, of course, on the bees, we cannot get the exact species. It's very hard. Even if you ask to an entomologist to give you the exact species of an individual that's on the table, they won't get it because it's hard. They're very tiny little individuals. But for the birds, we have a lot of data sets we can use to train the models, and we are in the position to get the exact species. Of course, there is an accuracy depending on the sound we are collecting, but most of the time the accuracy is good and we get the exact species. And this is also a good bioindicator for monitoring. That's our app. This app, well, it's also free if you want to download it and to use it as a, to enjoy, because it's like we don't usually say that, but it's like Pokemon Go. it's like a game, but we also use it on the field to see what's going on with the vegetation and to track it. But if you download it as an individual, you can use it. It's a citizen science project, and all of these information, we use them to research and development, and they are also available for some university, so they can train their own model, and you can have fun also. The third step is assess. So we collect all this data and we give back like robust KPI about biodiversity, soil, water, climate. Well, the best way to understand the potential of the platform, you can imagine, it's a demo, but I can't run a demo right now. So if you want to check it, we can do it for sure. But just to say that the most important KPI for biodiversity, it's the MSA. For who's already working on biodiversity, do you agree on that, or do you have any clue of what's the MSA? Just no clue. Great. Okay, so imagine the MSA as the CO2 equivalent emissions for climate change, but for biodiversity. It's we didn't invent it. Just no, we didn't. This was created by the Globio model, which is behind it. There is the Wageningen University. They are super good on biodiversity, and of course the United Nations environment. And now this KPI, it's been used in many standards and framework related to biodiversity. So you're going to hear more about it. And it's a great KPI because it can compare also very different environment. So you can compare a desert with a very wild forest because it compares the biodiversity, like the level of the biodiversity of the place as it was natural. So it actually compares the place, the area we are taking into account, to its own natural state. So that's why you can compare very different ecosystem. And that's how it's been used to many standards already. Also, the one that was recently released by the ISO on biodiversity. Then you have a lot of other KPIs. Of course, they are divided into topics. So we have land use, microclimate, of course, biodiversity, risks, and then there is the whole section about sensor, which we talk a little bit about. As I said, it's not only about biodiversity, even if we started from there. Now the platform has a huge section on risk management, and we started working also with asset managers that are running like funds on nature, and can be used also by companies to assess the risk of its asset and to look at urban heat island. Of course, the platform monitors, but then you need to do something about it. I mean, you can track the urban heat island, but then you have to somehow take some actions to, if you want to find a solution. Of course, the platform is used a lot for regeneration project. As I said, it can be on the industry, like regenerative agriculture projects. So a lot of companies, they have their own programs to engage the supply chains on regenerative agriculture. And they use the platform to track how the farmers are doing. But also it's fine. It's really used for regeneration project in general, like urban regeneration or industrial regeneration, and you can track how it's going on. I already mentioned the scenario analysis. This is also good for regeneration project to see what will happen in terms of KPI and to the biodiversity before, because it's a predicting feature. And we use that a lot, especially in the UK market for the BNG, the biodiversity net gain. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they have their own scheme in UK where they are forced basically to regenerate once they are doing dealing with a new infrastructure, for example, or a new building. They would need to track their impact on biodiversity and to regenerate 10% more what they are having the impact on. As I said, we're working on the nature credit. Are you familiar with the nature credit topic or nature credit? No? No one? Yeah, great. So we work with UNI, which is the ISO branch in Italy, for this new standard on biodiversity credit that was released in September 25. Let's say that has two parts. So the first part is biodiversity footprint of the company, and the second part is how to generate nature credit. This is not, let's say, you can use it, all around the world, because it's an ISO standard at the end. It's a voluntary standard, of course. It's based on the MSA, the KPI I was mentioning before, and it will be used by the European Union because we were selected as part of the expert group by the European Union. It will be used as one of the different standards that were developed in Europe to start, homogenized a little bit on that. They released a roadmap last July, and the European Union is really focusing now on finding a scheme, a unique scheme in Europe in 2 years for the nature credit. So by 2025, 27, we'll get, a unique scheme. But this is something you can start working on, actually, with the voluntary standard. And of course, the first step of the leap, it's prepared. You can get the report from the platform. It's automatic, of course, AI generated. It's CSRD compliance, but also TNFD and SBTN. And of course, that's easy. I have 6 minutes left. I wanted to talk about some case studies. Of course, I picked some case studies from different sectors, though they are a Swiss company. They actually are in the mining sector, but as a producer, so they don't own their own mines, but they have some suppliers in Latin America. But they started their journey by assessing the impact of the biggest gold mine they're involved with in Colombia. And that was actually the right things to do, I would like to say. But then they also did the assessment for their Swiss industry side. So at the end, they're monitoring these two assets. Of course, the mine in Colombia is not the only mine they're involved with, but it's the biggest one. So they had to start somewhere. And then in Switzerland, they are monitoring, with the sensor, because they also did the assessment, but also a regeneration project related to that. They create their own biodiversity oases that they are monitoring. This is another company. It's an Italian company, but it's an Australian group. Actually, they run highways all around the world. And for them, we are actually tracking, monitoring the entire highway. It's more than 579 hectares, because of course it's a line, but it's also what's around, the road. And then, of course, they're tracking that with satellite images, but they're also created an oasis that they are monitoring with the sensor on the ground. So it's Spectrum, Birdie. They also have the iTech. I didn't talk about the iTech, but just to say it's one of another sensor we use, and it's very specific for let's say beehives. This one of my colleague with it. The one that they don't talk much. They just go around and install things. Like the ecologists, they are like this. Yeah, with the hat, they're beautiful. Yeah, and then they have this incredible oasis we are monitoring. It's just on one of the exit of the highway. So actually also stakeholders can have a look at it. And they involve their employees, some stakeholders to plant the trees. And they also involved a school, in the project. So it's a very, very, complete project. The last I choose is Sammontana, the Italian brand for ice cream. No? Okay. Okay, too bad. Okay. And no, I chose that because we work a lot in the agri-food business, and I think it's very interesting. It's a very interesting project because it deals with a specific product line, so you can actually start from not only at the assessment but also for a specific product. In this case, they are tracking the supply chain of the vegan product they have. And the vegan product they have, it's called Amando. And of course, it's based on almond. Okay, so they make ice cream with almond. And they wrote their own almond code, which is a program for regenerative agriculture, but specifically for almond. And they are tracking the entire supply chain of almond, so they can actually talk about this monitoring plan they're doing on this specific product line, which is the vegan line, for the customer that, of course, are more sensible to that. Yeah, they're growing them, especially in Sicily. They plant the trees, yeah, and they're monitoring with the Spectrum. I think that's it. If you want to, download the white paper, you can find a lot of white papers for different industry on our website, in XNatura especially. You have my email there, and we can catch up later if you want to talk about biodiversity and nature. Even if you think it's not material, we can still talk. It's fine.